So, I don't really understand what happened, where the steps that went wrong with Breonna Taylor. So I'm asking you, as a friend, as somebody I know that has wisdom, um, what can you make sense out of this situation that other people we just can't seem to understand?
Well, I'll be honest. I haven't paid a lot of attention to it as I should, but I have, took a little stab at it a little bit. And the reason why is because the first feeling that I got, it was kind of, psyopy-ish. I kind of felt like this is kind of stealing our minds a little bit. It's just like, uh, that's the initial feeling I got, without taking a look at the facts. But the one thing that people didn't really understand in terms of what actually happened, if this is the case, and that is, let's say, an arresting officer is on an I mean a officer on an arrest team, one of these teams that goes and does these serve these warrants. So this officer is not a detective. They got, minimal information, and they say, okay, this is the house we're gonna hit. We're gonna hit it. So in the process of doing that act, and then let's say this officer discharges his weapon for whatever reason, and the person is killed. That's not murder. That's not like some of the cases that we have been, like the Michael Brown case, like the Castillo case, and other cases where we clearly saw where the cop has other options and he killed this unarmed person. We're not talking about this. Is a little bit different because the officers acting on a warrant. They got dynamic entry rules, and whatever sign they have, and that's another thing we need to look at in these cases. When you see what they call dynamic entry, that's when SWAT team or one of these arresting teams serve a warrant, they kick your door in. That's dynamic entry rules. So uh, anything can set them off to shoot. I mean, we've seen the cases where they've hit the wrong house and they kill somebody. Why? The guy had a remote in his hand. He was sitting he was on his rocking chair. He was on his rocking chair watching TV with the remote in his hand, and they did a dynamic entry and knocked him off. Well, in the Breonna Taylor case, the information is bad, so they call that illegally. That's negligent homicide. It's not a murder. That's number one. So like all of this protest stuff, it has to be in the context. Other thing we was talking about before you went live, you was asking, we was just free, just talking, and that
Yeah.
was the other thing is the um the street life stuff. And I'm just gonna put it in the context that, like, first of all, I don't believe that. I think her death is a tragedy, and I have sympathy for her loss of life and her family and what they're going through. And I believe that there was other options that could have been done, but I just know how the police move, and that's how they move, and they move lethally. With that said, I got to keep it 100, and that is, if the allegations are true that she was living, she was part of street life. Uh, if that's the case, then anybody who's in the game, they understand that when they wake up every day, uh, two things in an instant can happen, and that's your life or your freedom.
Mhm.
So people that really understand that code, they play for keeps. So I mean, I'm just saying that to say that that's not to justify her death, but I'm just saying that if you're in the streets, you know, um, The two probable results is death or incarceration. That's what it is. And and I'm just saying, one plus one equals two. And I'm not saying that, like I said, it's not about justifying the police's action, because that's not what I mean by that. But let's just for a moment, let's put this to aside and put this in the context of these protests and things and all these other, side distractions that we have been accustomed to seeing through social media. And that is, what people aren't asking is, who is the detective who did the investigation and wrote the report to even get the warrant signed? And see, before people go, yeah, I'm not a protester anyway, but before you raise the name and raise the complaint, let's get all the facts on the table.
Right.
And let's do it unemotionally, unbiasedly, and let's just look at the facts. Because in the
But
past,
mm-hmm.
and let me make this small point, and I know I've been running for a while. I know I need you to fill in and put everything in a context. But in the past, what have we seen? This is a template of this kind of stuff going on, especially with Messi, Jesse Jackson, and Al Charlatan. Them two used to do this. They would take a case that had sometimes a good story, and they would run with the public opinion with the corrupted storyline that would throw the case, or it would be a non-case that they blew up into something, and then they would ultimately uh, divert all the energy in other directions. And that's what we're seeing right now with the whole, you know, uh, black militias and all this other stuff.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up uh Jesse and Al, because I remember a quote from Steve Coakley where he was like, I'm tired of seeing my people walked around this corner and walked around that corner until they're ventilated and tired. And that's just a paraphrase of his quote, but it is something that always will stick with me. Um,
Right, right.
um, as far as what you said with the whole street light situation, my people are smart. We know the risk that we are taking living this life that we are living as melanated people. Um, so now that we look at it like it can come any way. So people really don't have value within their lives because there's no value in their communities when they wake up in the morning. It's hard. It's hard. So that's just something I have to say about that. But the consequences still remain the same. As far as Brianna, I think with this situation, Cisco, is that we gave these people a lot of time, a lot of idle time. They had 190 days. Yes, they had to take and do their investigation, but they came back with nothing. And they also provided incomplete, from what I saw, incomplete paperwork about the death. So it's a lot of games that have been played on the back end.
And see, and that's the whole thing of why I was saying that it felt kind of psyope-ish, because first of all, and that's why I said the legal part, because if it's negligent homicide, now you gotta think about what that means. You
Yes.
gotta you gotta convict a cop of being guilty of a negligent homicide, doing
And
doing a dynamic entry, serving a warrant. You gotta prove him beyond reasonable doubt that he's guilty,
hmm
beyond reasonable doubt that he's
well,
guilty.
the charges that he received, this officer that actually shot her, was wanton endangerment. So basically, it's named in the report that he shot at a wall of a neighbor's home and put their lives in danger while serving this warrant.
And see, yeah, I mean, I feel you, but I think all of this is coming out. Not only that it's facts of the case, but I think it's just to stir the whole because see, I don't understand. There's a theme going on throughout the country
It is.
to is anti-police and defund the police. So
Yeah.
everybody is hypersensitive to every little thing that comes out. When you put it in the context that this the best that could come out of it is negligent homicide, and then you have to think of the legal procedure, and it's not Cisco saying that it's right or wrong. It is what it is. This is how they move. So how you got to get a jury of 12 people to find him guilty beyond reasonable doubt that during a dynamic entry, that's the key. During a dynamic entry serving a warrant, allegedly to a person that's as they would probably think if they had intelligence that this person was involved in the street or the dope game, they would consider that person what? Armed and dangerous.
Right.
So the question is, and this is in Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Kentucky, can now do you got to look at this how the DA is probably looking at it. I mean, if you look at it without any emotions, the DA wants to win a case or not. Maybe there's some underhanded stuff going on. Who knows? With a psyop case, it's a realm of impossibilities. But the key to critically think about, is in Kentucky. Who's the mayor? Who's the city? Who's the? That's how you can tell what's gonna happen. Who's the
Yeah.
city count? Who's the city council?
Yeah.
Who's the chief of police? Okay. Now in that area, can you get 12 jurors to make this police officer or officers guilty beyond reasonable doubt under the circumstances? Yes or no? I'm not even saying that I have the answer, but I definitely can think critically about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can, and I can say that it don't surprise me. Look at what Michael Brown. Come on, let's not forget.
Yeah. I can't. I mean, I can't forget, and that's why I'm
Okay,
saying
yeah.
it.
Let's look at Trayvon and all these other Mickey Mouse courtrooms we've seen.
Yeah, it's something that continuously is going on. Maybe it is, like you said, it seems to be a theme. Um,
And they
this is
don't mind paying. Just like I said before, they don't mind paying. They got insurance companies.
right, right. Well, like we already found out, 12 million came from, half of the police union and then half from taxpayers.
Man,
Some, you know,
ever since we looked behind the curtain of the LA County Sheriff and the LAPD.
man, that
I,
was a
I,
look.
I look at police departments and sheriff departments totally different now.
Me too. Me too. I mean, that's a lot of money to throw at a situation, and you're not saying that you're at fault.
They don't mind. Put it like this: they don't mind paying.
Right.
They probably don't want to from a political standpoint for reelection and things like that. But from a financial standpoint, they don't mind paying.
Mm, 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 mm.
It's not a big deal to pay.
Right.
It just might hurt their political career depending on which direction they're trying to go and what audience they're trying to please.
Well, it is a political deal, when you have things like this happening in your city with your civilians. Um, and it's just another knock at the door for the Second Amendment, which seems to be, like you said, a theme for 2020. Um, I just want to close this out and say, what anybody has to say about Breonna Taylor, whether she was doing good out here, whether she was doing bad out here. Nobody can throw a stone with a glass house. So at the
Right.
end of the day, rest in peace to Breonna Taylor. She deserves to rest in peace, just like all of these countless other Black people that have been mutilated and murdered by the police and other people as well. You know, but you got to look at certain situations the way I look at them, the way Cisco looks at them critically, to avoid being over emotional. Which I'm a woman, I'm going to be emotional. So rest in peace to that sister at the end of the day. Thank you guys so much for listening. Cisco, did you have anything else to say?
Nah, nah, not at all. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. You definitely gave us some enlightenment that people haven't really heard about this case.
Right.
Alrighty.